Hello. I think we're live. This is super nice to be live on so many different platforms at the same time. As far as I know, we're supposed to be live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and I think I may be able to also go live on Instagram. Give me just 1 second. Let's see what the hell's going on here. I think that is not working. Anyway, that's all right. Hope you guys are having a good time today. We're going to be talking about generative AI implementation strategy. But maybe while we keep going, while before people join in and we wait a few seconds, I would love to know who is connected, where is connected from. So here I can see chat. I can see where people are writing comments from the different platforms. So just type down in the chat where you're connecting from, and it's going to be interesting to see how many different people from different countries and different places in the world are tuning in for this live session. So just type that, and I'm going to start reading the comments out here and see how many people are connecting from all different parts of the world. In the meantime, let me introduce myself. I am Gianluca. I am connecting from Copenhagen, even though I'm originally from Rome, Italy. I see there's Lavanya from Bangalore, India. Hi, Lavanya. So happy to have you here. I guess it's very early over there, right? I think it's supposed to be like in the morning. Matteo from Denmark. Ciao, Matteo. We have Mario from Rome. We have somebody else from Italy. We have Inge from Belgium. Amazing. Cool. So far it looks like there's quite a few different nationalities connecting from on LinkedIn, which is always nice because that means that we're able to talk to people who come from all different parts of the world, and there's a little bit of a sense of connection over here. Awesome. So without further ado, let's get into it. What do we want to talk about today? We want to talk about generative AI implementation strategy. So this is a topic that I think has become very, very important in a lot of the work that I do, talking to clients all over the world, because there's a lot of confusion around what is generative AI, what you can do, and what you should do. So hopefully today we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to address a few of the concerns and questions that you may have. So first of all, let me introduce myself. Who am I? My name is Gianluca Mauro. I'm an expert in AI. I've been working on AI for roughly 10 years, and I'm the co-founder of two companies. One is called AI Academy, which specializes in education, and we do workshops like this for companies, small and large, to help them really understand what is AI and how they can use it in their organization. I'm also the co-founder of a new company called Epiphany. More on that really soon. Still kind of in stealth mode, so just wait a little bit. I'm going to be able to tell you more about it. And I'm also very active in the field of AI ethics. I published an investigation on The Guardian on gender bias, which is always interesting to talk about. And there at the bottom, you see some of the logos of companies that I worked with. Procter & Gamble, Pampers, Merck, teach at different universities like Harvard and ESCP, a little bit all over the world. So basically, this is just to say that my life is all about helping people understand what is AI and how they can use it in their organization. So what you're going to hear today is some of the things that I've learned by advising companies, by seeing them try things, by seeing them make mistakes, and by also building my own companies. These are things that we apply in AI Academy and in Epiphany on a day-to-day basis. So you're going to see real-world case studies today. One thing that I want to say is so the concept that I want to share today are things that I usually do with large companies that pay money for this. So I know that this is a free webinar, but I don't want you to discount it as something that is free and so it does not have value. And I see that usually when people get something for free, they tend to kind of take it for granted and maybe not focus that much. And maybe you're scrolling on Instagram while you're listening to this webinar, while you're drinking coffee or whatever. So I highly recommend to focus. This is going to be a 1 hour. It's not going to be a long time, maybe even less. Let's see. Depending on how much time we need to go through all these topics. So please focus, and questions are welcome. If you have any question, I can read you in the chat here. So just type your question, and I'm gonna find a good moment to stop and address any question that you may have. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what I want to start with is making you understand that there are like different elements to an AI product, to an AI application. The first thing that I want you to think about is that there's one layer that we're all used. They're all like how can I say it? That we're all used to interacting with, which is what I call the application layer or the user interface. So every time you connect to an AI tool like ChatGPT, you're interacting with this layer. This is not the only thing that goes down into an AI application. We're going to talk about the other elements later. But let's first dig deeper a little bit into what is the application layer. And you see here, spoiler, there are those 3 boxes. So there's 2 other things. Let's focus on the application layer first. This is the application layer. This is ChatGPT. When you're typing stuff into this user interface, you're interacting with the application itself. One interesting thing that I want you guys to think about is there are a few features on ChatGPT that have nothing to do with AI. This is an example, the sharing functionality. You can share a chat that you had with ChatGPT with friends. This was not present in the original version of ChatGPT when it came out in November 2022. It was something that was added later. So what I want you to think about when you're interacting with a tool like ChatGPT, we're going to do this throughout the whole session today, is am I interacting with an AI feature or with a traditional software feature? In other words, what is giving me value? Is it AI or is it the application layer on top of AI? This is one example, this sharing functionality. But I want you to think about something. This is the new pricing that ChatGPT has. There are 2 tiers. One is the plus tier, and then there's the team tier. There's also the enterprise one, but let's just keep that aside for now. It's a little bit more, it's for a large company, it's a bit more complicated. But let's just stick with this thing. If you notice, most of the differences here between plus and team are not really AI differences. For instance, admin console for workspace management, team data excluded from training by default, this create and share GPTs with your workspace. So they're creating differentiation with features that are not AI features. The model is still GPT-4. You still have DALL-E. You still have all these different things. They're creating different value for different people at the application layer, okay? Not with the AI systems. So another interesting example for me of an application layer is this. This is Midjourney. I hope you guys have used Midjourney. I don't know if you're users. Actually, let me know in the chat. If you are a user of Midjourney, I would love to know how you use this tool. But so Midjourney, the first time that you use it, it's a bit confusing because they use Discord, which is another software, another application, as their application layer. So there's no midjourney.com. Okay. There's Discord, which is another tool that Midjourney makes you create an account on so that you can use their tool. And this is an interesting thing because it means that the guys behind Midjourney, have specifically tried to focus not on the application layer. They have very simple functionality, very hard to use, to be honest, but they specifically made a strategic decision not to focus on that layer, but to focus instead on the technology itself. Cool, Rachel, Midjourney user here. Would love to know how you use it. Just let us know in the chat so that we can see how maybe you can inspire somebody. And Gianluca hasn't tested it yet. I hope you're gonna test it because it's really, really cool. So this is another example of a feature that is built entirely on the application layer. This is the AI Academy bot. It's something we've been developing in our company, AI Academy, to help students get answers to their questions. It's not released yet, so if you're connected to this session and you are an AI Academy student, you need to wait a little bit. I think a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and then you're going to be able to use it. But I want to show you how this has pretty interesting functionalities if you ask me. It not only answers your question, but it also gives you a link where you can watch videos that can help you answer that question. And we built it on top of Discord once again. So we did not have, frankly, we did not have money, nor resources, not time to build our own application. So we had to borrow someone else's. We decided not to build our own application. But so you can start seeing how AI is the technology, but a lot of the products that we use today, they build value not at that layer, but at the application layer. So now, uh, I want to stress this. It's really important that you understand that the application is not the AI model. In other words, the application is something you can imagine as the chassis of a car. It's like, the metal frame around the car is what contains everything else. Okay. So one of the things that the application contains is the AI model, which you can imagine as the engine. So when you're interacting with ChatGPT, you're interacting with the application that is calling, it's interacting on with an AI model. But that's a different thing. It's separated from the application. It's two different things. You can imagine it like this. Your application is the chassis of a car, is the core metal frame, and your AI model is the engine powering the features within that metal frame. Okay? You have no idea how many people do not understand this. Even people who are investing money in building AI applications, they struggle understanding this difference. ChatGPT is not the AI technology. ChatGPT is the application layer around a model. And I'm going to stop saying this. I know I said it a few times, but it's really important. So if we want to try to visualize what happens when you're interacting with ChatGPT, you have the application layer, which is your user interface, is where you type. And you see, you can also choose which model to use. Here on the left, you have GPT-4 or GPT 3.5, depending if you're paying or not for your for ChatGPT. Based on which model you're interacting with, your question gets sent to the AI model. There are two AI models that you can choose from. GPT 3.5 is the cheapest, smallest, the simplest one. GPT-4 is the more expensive one. So now I just want to stop here for a second because this sounds like a very simple concept, but there's already a lot to unpack here. You have to start thinking about the fact that not everybody in this room and in your company and your friends, not everybody is going to build AI models. Not everybody's going to build their own AI applications either. So it's a key strategic decision that you have to take. What are you going to do? Are you going to build your own models? Or are you going to borrow those models and get them from somebody else? Are you going to build your own applications or are you not going to build your own application? These are all strategic decisions that hopefully today I'm going to help you at least give you a framework for how to think about them and how to take your own decision. But it's key that you understand that there's a difference and there's a strong value in picking the right things to focus on. Okay? So now let's keep going. Let's look at a few different businesses and how they have thought about this model versus application kind of strategic decision. Let's start with OpenAI. OpenAI sells both, sells models and an application. So when you buy ChatGPT, you're buying access to an application and to the model itself. But you can also pay to access just the model. You can do this, and it's fairly cheap. You can see the prices here. Notice the difference in business model. When you're paying for ChatGPT, you're paying a flat fee per month because it wants to be a very user-friendly. You're buying a software. Okay, you're not buying raw technology, if you want to put it like that. You're buying the car, the whole car. When you're buying the model, you're basically paying per usage. And so here I just put some examples. This GPT-4 is the more expensive model, and GPT 3.5 is the cheaper model that has a little bit of a worse performance, but it's faster. We can talk about later on how to decide which model to work with. But you can see there's a difference in business model. I want to show you an example of a company that has integrated a model they did not develop. This is Duolingo Max. Duolingo Max. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I guess you all know. You all know Duolingo. Duolingo is basically the biggest language learning app out there. The interesting thing about Duolingo is that they launched a new, super powerful functionality in which you can chat and learn a new language by speaking. And the interesting thing is that they all use GPT-4. So they don't have their own model. They're all leveraging a technology that has been built by somebody else, in this case, OpenAI. And we know this because they've been very open about this. They actually said that in their press release, powered by GPT-4. I saw there's a question from Kevin. GPT-4 is more expensive because it has a bigger, more recent data set to draw from, correct? Okay, so actually, this is an interesting question. I think this is a very common misconception here. It does not pick data from a repository. It has learned everything that it knows from a data set. So the model and the data, they're connected in the training phase. So the model is learning from that data. But once it has learned, it gets disconnected from it. It's a little bit like if you think about a doctor that is going through university. When a doctor goes through university, has the books and is reading those books and is memorizing all these concepts. Then when the doctor starts, basically working as a doctor, it does not need all the time access to those books. Those books aren't in their brain. In the same way, GPT-4, GPT 3.5, any AI model really has been connected to a data source for a period of time. It has learned from this data source, but then it gets disconnected from it and it can just repeat what it has learned. So GPT-4 is more expensive because it's a bigger model. You can imagine it as it has more storage. You could imagine it like this, to learn from more data and learn more complex concepts. So this is why it's more expensive. Since it's more complex, it requires more energy to run because it's bigger. You can imagine as a difference in brain size between a human and, I don't know, a dog. Dogs have smaller brain. They can not understand quantum physics. Okay, they can understand a few concepts that we understand as well, but they have a limit. We have a bigger brain that consumes more energy, and so we can learn more. I'm always a bit afraid of making comparisons between AI models and the human brain because they work in very different ways. But conceptually, this is a useful simplification. It's not accurate, but it's useful. I hope it makes sense, Kevin. Let me know if you have other questions. So let's keep going. I want to go back to this element of strategy and business models. Some businesses sell just AI models, and I put just with air quotes because it's actually very, very hard to develop models. But this is a viable business model. You don't need to build your own application. And I'm going to give you one example. Is this French company called Mistral. Mistral develops open source models that businesses and developers can buy. This is their offering. I know it's very hard to read. It's a tool for nerds. So it's a tool for people who enjoy looking at tables. But just to give you an idea, you as a user, you cannot use these things. It's for developers, it's for businesses. So they just sell the model. At the same time, there are businesses who don't even think about building their own models. All they do is build applications on top of existing models. And this is my first hot take. Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit of a background story, but I've been pitching investors for my other company, for Epiphany. And some investors say, oh, well, but do you have your own technology? Or are you just, some people are going to call this like this, a wrapper around ChatGPT, around the GPT 3.5 or GPT-4 technology? My hot take is that you can build a successful business just with air quotes. We're going to look at what does it entail if you want to have a strategy like this in a second. But you can build an amazing business just building an application and not focusing on the model. You can do that. And I can give you a few examples in a second. So the first example that I want to give you is a company called Jasper. Okay. So Jasper was founded in 2021. And their name originally was Conversion.ai. They reached $3.6 million in annual recurring revenue in 4 days. What does this company do, in case you don't know it? They generate content for social media using AI. So all they did was taking an API, so somebody else's model, in their case, it was the GPT-3 API from OpenAI. They embedded that into a beautiful, easy to use product that solved the real problem, and they got these insane results. Just in 4 days, they went from zero to $3.6 million in our recurring revenues. In the end of 2022, they had $45 million in annual recurring revenue, and people loved their product so much that they tattooed their logo on their body. This to me is even more insane than the $45 million ARR. It means that people really love their product. So when people say, oh, you cannot build value just with an application without owning a model, I always say, well, show me a tattoo of the ChatGPT logo. Nobody does it, right? Jasper managed to create an amazing user experience by focusing 100% on the application layer and buying basically a model from somebody else. So very interesting. They raised $125 million at a $1.5 billion valuation at some point in October 2022, and right after ChatGPT came out. So we're actually going to talk about in a little bit about how the launch of ChatGPT, which is basically a free competitor if you think about it, impacted the company. We're going to look at this, how the strategy changed when ChatGPT launched. So it's gonna be really interesting. Make sure that you stay connected until then. I think it's gonna come in like 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. So actually, this is the second hot take of the day. I would say that most companies should not focus on building models. And this is very interesting to me because I keep seeing people who, especially investors, who focus a lot on, hey, but do you have a cool technology? What is your moat? What is the core differentiation of your technology? I think you need to have a really good technology that works really well, but you don't necessarily can have to build that moat, that sort of like competitive advantage by building your own model. And I think an interesting example here is to think about what happened with databases. I hope you guys know Salesforce as a CRM tool that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Guys, a CRM is basically a database. That's it. Think about HubSpot. Think about all those CRM companies. They're basically very cool databases with a lot of cool, interesting features. The core technology is a freaking database. Then, sure, they add new fancy things on top, but it's still a database. So sometimes you can build amazing value by building on top of a fairly basic technology if the product, the application layer is compelling enough. So, when should you think about building your own model? What are the cases in which you should think about this? The first one is if you need very special behavior. If you want a system that behaves very, 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 very different from anything else on the market. In other cases, if you have very, very stringent data security requirements, we're going to look at a case study from a pharmaceutical company in a little bit. In that case, you may think about having your own model so that you don't depend on anybody else, basically. And the third case is if you have a lot of AI and data talent available. It's not enough to say, I have talent, therefore I'm going to build a model. But you can build a model if you have this talent available. So this is the way that you should think about it. Because if you don't have AI or data talent available and you think about building your own model, you may encounter some kind of roadblocks. It's going to be hard. And then you have lots of money. So training models is becoming cheaper and cheaper, especially fine-tuning models. But never underestimate maintaining those models and keeping them always updated and thinking about the data infrastructure. It's expensive. Okay, I don't want to make it. I don't want to promise the moon and then you're gonna go bankrupt because you're trying to build your own model. It's gonna cost money, a lot of money, like millions. Okay, you can do obviously like if initially when you look at how much it's gonna cost, it's not gonna be in the millions. But again, maintaining it, hiring the talent to understand how these systems behave, keeping them up to date, that's going to cost millions. So keep that in mind. Okay, so this is a meme that I found on the internet, and I want to go back to that idea of people making fun of companies who do not own their own models. There's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of people who say, well, if you don't own your own models, you're not really an AI startup. So I have a controversial take, which I already told you. I think that you can create a lot of value with this, just with the application layer. But I want to get a little bit deeper into it. With the third component of an AI product, which I need to find a fancier name for. I feel like model orchestration is not sexy enough. I'm gonna think about something better. If somebody works in marketing and can help me out, branding this is gonna be fun. But this is basically steering a model and kind of like customizing someone else's technology. If we go back to the car analogy, the application layer is the chassis, so the core metal frame of the car. The model is the engine. Well, you also need a steering wheel, gear shift, and a few pedals to drive a car. These are model orchestration tools. Okay. We're going to go a little bit deeper into what these things mean. But for now, let's focus on this because for the first time in today, I showed you a full picture of how many different components are involved in an AI product. So how many different things you should think about when you're thinking about your AI strategy. Application layer, what people interact with, the chassis of the car, the model, which is the engine of the car, and then the orchestration, which is how you get to control an AI model. So you have your steering wheel, you have your gears, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So I hope this is clear. If it's clear, if this makes sense, I hope you had a little bit of an Erica moment, thinking about all these different components and just kind of unpacking AI products. Let me know that in the chat if this was useful, if this was interesting, and if you have questions. I want to go deeper into this model orchestration in the meantime, because I think that there are a few different elements that contribute to a well done model orchestration layer. What are these elements? So the first thing, the most basic thing, is something called a system prompt. What is a system prompt? If you've never interacted with models, but just with applications, you may not know what a system prompt is. So ChatGPT originally, when it was released, had this system prompt. It's, you are ChatGPT, a helpful assistant. Knowledge cutoff date, whatever date it was, I don't remember. It was, I think, September or something like this, September 2021. And then today's date, it was the date when people were using it. So this was the original system prompt, which basically meant that whenever you were asking a question to ChatGPT, in this case, I made just a silly example because I'm Italian. I wrote, write a poem about pizza. The model wouldn't get just your question. It would get something else as well. The model will get, you are ChatGPT, a helpful assistant. Knowledge cutoff date, a date, today's date, the date, user question, write a poem about pizza. This simple system prompt is basically what defined the behavior of ChatGPT. Okay. So this is how companies can try to take a model, and this is a very basic way, by the way. We're going to see in a second more complex and more sophisticated ways to steer the behavior of a model to make it work for your own specific application. Okay, this is the reason, by the way, it's at least one of the reasons why you always get that sort of tone of voice from ChatGPT. Okay, the system prompt now, we don't know what it is. They haven't released it. Some people managed to find it, and it's something very long and explains a lot of different things on how ChatGPT should behave. So if it's always sounds like it's very politically correct, partially is because of the system prompt. If you want to go a level deeper, you have something else called a meta prompt. So we're not going to go super deep into meta prompts. I want to give you just a little bit of a flavor of what the hell is a meta prompt. This is a screenshot of a tool that I developed some time ago called Holy Cow. And it was basically a competitor of Jasper, but cooler, I think. It was a tool to help small and medium businesses develop content for the social media. And as you can see, we wanted the user experience to be very simple. So whenever somebody wrote what they wanted to talk about, something very basic, we didn't want them to stress too much about the prompt. But we would take whatever they wrote and integrate it into a more sophisticated prompt that we wrote. So the meta prompt is something like the scaffolding, it's something like a template for a user prompt. But this allows you to change the behavior of your model and make it really, really solid, let's say, for your users. I see Kevin asking if the model orchestration is the coding behind the application. It's part of it. It's definitely part of it. I think when you say coding, you're referring to sort of like traditional software engineering kind of tasks. And there's this traditional software engineering, for lack of better words, also in the application layer. Model orchestration is more about how do I write code to try to make my model behave in the way that I want it to behave, to try change how the engine works. Think about it like honestly, I'm really proud of my of my gear and car metaphor. So if you have an engine of a car, well, the engine, it's spinning at a specific amount of rounds per minute, right? But if you want to change how that impacts the car, you can change gear, right? So you can decide how you want the engine to affect the way that your car drives. And car companies do invest quite a lot of engineering effort into making nice gearboxes, right? In the same way, the model orchestration is pieces of software. There may be no AI involved here, it may be just traditional software, but it's helpful to make the AI model behave differently from the, let's say, how can we call it, the default way that it would behave. I hope this makes sense. It's like, again, I think the gearbox metaphor, it's really what's going on behind the scenes. So let's keep going. Another component of model orchestration is something called RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. This is, by the way, super hot today. So in the AI world, you're going to see a lot of companies talking about this. So if you read RAG, is this thing called retrieval augmented generation, which basically means adding new data to a model. I'm going to show you a quick example. This is how our AI Academy bot works, by the way. So let's say that somebody comes on an academy, is a student, and asks a question: how can I write a reusable prompt? AI, if without being connected to any other source of data, will answer something like, if you want to write a reusable prompt, you should, etc., etc. So that's it. That's what you can do. You just ask this question to GPT-4. At AI Academy, we did something more. We connected it to our repository of videos. So we have quite a lot of content that it's high quality, at least we believe it is, our students believe it is. And in this content, there's a lot of knowledge. It's basically everything that I know just into videos, right? So when a user asks a question, the first thing that we do is that we find what is the best lecture to answer that question. We do that using this retrieval technological component. Once we find the best lesson, then we can send the content of the lesson back to an AI model that can give you then the answer, but it can give you an answer that is personalized based on my content. So this RAG is another way to change the behavior of your model by adding external knowledge that you own, and maybe it's really cool, it's really valuable, and you want to embed in the behavior of your application. Think also about the user experience that our students have. They don't get just the answer, but they also get a link to the video that they can go and watch, which I think is pretty cool, right? I don't know if the students love it because we haven't launched it yet. We need to fine tune a few things, but hopefully they're going to love it, and it's going to be really fun for them to use. So this is just a screenshot of how it works, so you can see. You get, this was my question. You see it on top. See, Gianluca used ask question, how do I write good prompts? This is the answer. And at the end, you get the references so you can click and watch the video. So all this, I want to just stop and see what we learned so far, because I think there's quite a few concepts that I introduced, and I'm actually curious to know. Let me know in the comments whether all these ideas are new things for you, whether these are things that I just introduced you for the first time, whether this was useful for you to build a mental model of how AI products work. But just to give you a summary, in the meantime, just type in the chat if this was helpful. What was the thing that, let's say, that gave you the most value so far? I'm really curious to read that. But in the meantime, while you type, I'm going to make a quick summary of what we learned. We learned that when we look at AI products, AI is just one of the components. Okay. Unless that's all you sell, unless you're like the company Mistral that sells just a model. That's all they do. So AI can be just one piece of the equation. The other two pieces of the equation are, number one, the application layer, which is basically this scaffolding around the model. It's like the chassis of a car. And that's what basically users are going to click. Okay? When you click on stuff and type things, that's what the users interacting with the application. And then there's this middle layer between the application and the model called model orchestration, which, again, I want to find a fancier name for. But the concept is that these are technological components that allow you to change a little bit and personalize the behavior of your model. And the last thing that I want to say is those three components, they're all pretty much interchangeable. And this is what we're going to do in the next, 20 minutes. We're going to talk about how you should think about where to focus on for your specific company. Because not all of you have to focus on all three. Not all of you need to think about each step with the same amount of weight, let's say. Not all of them have the same importance for every company. So I saw the comment from Lavanya who says, mostly new, thank you, a total eye-opener. I'm really happy about this. And if somebody else found this so valuable, let me know in the comments. It's always nice to read when people found value in the stuff that I'm teaching. So thank you for that. So let's keep going. This is basically what we've learned so far. We learned all those three steps. So I just saw another question. Kevin asked, is model orchestration a standard term or yours? If yours, what is the standard term? There is no standard term. So it's such a new, oh my God, I see a lot of questions coming in. So I'm going to take some time to answer them. One thing that we need to understand is this is very new stuff. It's a new industry. So words and best practices are being defined as we speak, if that makes sense. So model orchestration is a sort of like conceptualization. Is that an English word? I hope so. That I came up with to make it easy for people to think about these components. In the industry, I don't think there's a term that everybody agrees on with yet. Okay. Another question from Mario, just a question. When you use a model for your own application and you put in the third-party model, your knowledge and your data, are you giving your data to the original model? If I put data on GPT model, am I training the original GPT model? Really good question. So what Mario is asking is, if I take somebody else's model and I put my data in somehow, is this model going to learn from it? And is the new knowledge going to be available for everybody? The short answer is no. It's not going to learn from it. It's a decision. It's the company that you're buying the model from needs to decide that. But most companies are deciding against this because obviously people will freak out. Okay, so they don't train by default. One thing that you can do is you can give your data to OpenAI and you can ask them to train a custom model on your data, and then they will sell you your personal version of the GPT models. It's very expensive. Okay, so it costs money. But I could potentially make the Gianluca GPT. Actually sounds pretty good. Gianluca GPT, GGPT, Chat GGPT. Maybe it's a new product that I should develop. But I could give them all my courses and ask them to train a model and get that back to me. But it would be so expensive that I don't think it's worth it. Inge says, not everything is new. Oh, by the way, hi, Inge. Nice to see you here as well. But your conceptual idea of the car makes a lot of sense to share with other people who are not familiar with AI. That's my goal. My goal is to try to make all these concepts easy for people. These things, small anecdote, all those things are very easy for me because I've been in this industry for 10 years. So that's how my brain thinks. Part of my job, I would say the biggest part of my job, is to find clever, or I try to make them clever, ways to make the way that my brain sees those things as an expert easy for somebody who's not an expert, so that my knowledge can be transferred to you in the easiest, shortest amount of time possible. That's what I do. The rug is still making me very curious as I'm trying to get an idea how it works. Inge, I know you're part of one of our programs. Tomorrow, no, on Sunday, I'm going to be shooting some lessons on this. So watch out. Cool, awesome. Let's get back into the plan, and I want to talk about this sort of when I wrote up my book a few years ago. That was before ChatGPT. I introduced this concept of build versus buy versus borrow. Build means you build your own technology, obviously. Buy means you buy from somebody else, and borrow means that you take something from somebody else and you kind of make it work for your own case. So I want to look at how to think about those three strategies for different products, breaking them down into those three layers: application, model orchestration, and model. So the first case that I want to give you is something called Pi. And I want to know if you guys know this system. Write that into the chat if you've used Pi. Pi is a competitor to ChatGPT that has the core difference that it feels a little bit more conversational. ChatGPT sometimes feels like, I don't know how it feels like. It feels like I'm talking to a robot, okay? Which it is a robot. Pi tries to sound a little bit more human, okay? So that's their core differentiation. And they got $1.5 billion of funding. Billions with a B. Lots of money, which is really important for what I'm about to show you next. So let's think about this. I'm going to do this one myself. The next ones, I'm going to ask you to do it. So pay attention now, okay? Model. Does it make sense for them to buy a model or to build it or to borrow it? But think about this. They want a very special behavior. They want this thing to feel like a friend, which is GPT models don't do that naturally. Number one. Number two, they have lots of money. Okay? So it does make sense that they build it because they can and because they want some very special behavior. Model orchestration, they also want it to feel different. So they're going to build it as well. Because they have the resources. It's because it's all about the user experience. And they're also going to build the application layer. Why? Because once again, they want to have a different experience compared to ChatGPT. Pi does very funky things. You can call it like a normal phone call and you can talk to the model. It's just very odd. They're just going towards this very dystopic view of how AI is supposed to feel like a human. But you see, they build everything. I want to give you another case of a big bank that I talked to some time ago. They wanted to buy, so I cannot share their name because of NDAs. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to buy a tool to basically create copywriting for their social media posts. Okay. So a LinkedIn user is asking, I just want to address this first. Is Pi the name of the application, interface, or the LLM, or both? Is the name of the application an interface? I actually do not remember the name of their LLM. I think the company is called Inflection. I don't remember how they call the model, but the application is Pi. And you can find it looking for heypi.com. So let's talk about the big bank once again. I cannot share the name, but they wanted to use a tool to help their marketing team create content faster. So in their case, think about this. They have big money, like Pi, but they're not a tech company. They're a bank. So they would not have the skills to build this thing. Also, I would say that it's not a core product for them. It's just something that helps them internally. So they're just going to buy the model externally. Model orchestration. Well, it's a bank. It needs to make social media posts. It's not very special what kind of behavior they want. So they don't need to build it. They're going to buy that too. And last but not least, why the hell should they build their own application? Why they should ask their IT people to build a software? It's such a normal use case, creating copy. So they decided to buy everything. which basically means that they bought Jasper, this tool. They bought an enterprise license for this. The tool that I talked to you about, it's a tool that you can use to create content for social media. Just gave them a bunch of money. They bought 400 licenses. Here you go, that's it, done. So for them, it did not make sense to build anything. It made sense to buy the whole thing, pretty much. Okay? So you just saw a company with potentially a similar situation. They have lots of money, lots of resources, but they decided to have two completely different strategies. One built the whole thing because he had a very special need. The other one has such a normal need, writing social media posts, they just decided to buy the whole thing. Another case, a big pharma company, which I also cannot share the name of, but it doesn't matter. Just think about a big pharmaceutical company. So in their case, they also have lots of money. Sorry, I made a mistake with this slide. This is I'm talking about the pharma company now. It's not the big bank. So they have big privacy concerns. So it made sense for them instead to build their own model. Why? Because they didn't want to depend on somebody else for the security of their data. So they build it. They build the model orchestration because they wanted to make sure that the model behaved the way that they wanted to behave. It had to be very safe. Okay. And they also build the final layer because once again, they didn't want to depend on third parties because of the confidentiality of the data. Okay. So a very interesting case how a company with a lot of money, a bank, went in a very different direction from another company with a lot of money, a pharma company, because of basically different data privacy requirements, completely different strategies. I want to give you the case study of Jasper, which is the tool that I showed you before that creates social media content. So for them, they create social media content. They're not an AI company. They're not going to build their own model. They're going to buy it. They use OpenAI. I guess now they changed it a little bit. They say that they customized it and now they use something else. But at the time, back in the days, they were very proud of the fact they did not own the model. Okay. But they own the model orchestration because they want the behavior of the AI to be very specific for marketing. And they also own the application layer. So I promised you roughly 20 minutes ago that I was going to tell you how their strategy changed when ChatGPT came out. What they did is they started focusing on features like this one. Tap into our central nervous system for all your content, basically a fancy content repository. This other thing, move faster with fewer miscommunication. So basically project management tools around content creation. Why did they do that? Because they realized that they could not differentiate with better models. They had to differentiate with better application features. So all their new features are not AI features, they are application level features, okay? Very different. This is very interesting to me because it shows how you can have your strategy can change with time. Once new competition comes in, a lot of companies start to focus on features that have nothing to do with AI. It's just normal, let's say, user experience. I hope this was interesting for you. I find it very interesting. Midjourney, I had this and then another case study, and then we're done. So this is I think the most interesting one, to be honest. So Midjourney model, they build their own, obviously. So it's their model, and that's why they're really cool because their model is really nice. The output that you get, the beautiful art that you get is amazing. There is basically no model orchestration because it's a very kind of like raw, simple, techie, nerdy tool, okay? But the application, they didn't build it, they borrowed Discord. Why do you think they did that? Just start thinking about it. Start thinking about why they borrowed that. I'll tell you what happened as a consequence of the strategy. This company makes $200 million per year in revenues. They have just 40 employees. Just 40 employees. This is like, how much is this? My math is not that good nowadays, but it's basically $5 million of revenue per employee. It's insane. The reason why they're able to get this crazy value is because they did not bother with the application layer. Application layer can be really complex because it's all about the UX, it's all about maintaining software, they decide to ignore that completely, basically, and just be very lean, very fast. And so they have a small team. It doesn't make sense for every tool. Think about Jasper. Jasper did not have a fancy technology, so they had to focus on the application layer. This is the opposite. So my whole point here is that you can do basically whatever the hell you want based on what is the value that you give to the user, what is your company, and your strategy depends on these things. And they also yes, they borrow it because of community already present in Discord. Ish. Yeah, I think you guys are on a really good path, but think about how many people found out about Discord because of Midjourney. So they actually, I would say, they leverage the community functionality of Discord, but I didn't leverage Discord as a channel to bring people to gain users, if that makes sense. But yes, you guys are right, Francesco, and I cannot read your name. So LinkedIn user, you are right as well, meaning that the Discord community feature was what helped them create this value. Really, really nice, by the way, to read all your comments. I feel like this is a very interactive session, which I really like. AI Academy is doing pretty much the same thing with our bot. We decided to buy the model. We use GPT 3.5. We built our own model orchestration, all this new data from our models coming in, from our classes coming in, and we borrowed the application as well. Why did we do that? Well, because we don't have money to build our own application. I also don't think it makes sense from a user experience perspective. Our community is already on Discord, so we just brought the AI magic where our community already exists. So I think if I had money, probably I would not build an application anyway. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Model orchestration, we need to build ourselves because we have that element of personalization. So a quick summary before we move to the last part of this workshop. The summary is fairly, I guess, fairly short for me. Is there's a lot more to AI than just AI models. There are many more components, and where your company should focus on really depends on what value you want to give to your users, but also how does your company look like? What skills do you have available? What resources do you have available? What are your users? What do your users want? Okay. Think about Midjourney. It's a great example. I love that example. Their users were kind of like hacky, crazy, creative people. It made sense for them to use Discord. Same thing for Academy. It didn't make sense for us to build our own custom tool because we had students already on Discord. So we just brought the AI where they were already, right? Cool. So this was my summary. Before opening up to the Q&A, I just want to tell you that all these concepts that I taught today, I honestly think these are key if you work for an organization that wants to have an AI strategy. If you know that AI is key for your company, you should know about those things. You should think about those things. You should know, frankly, a lot more. But I don't see a lot of people asking themselves these questions. I see a lot of people talking about prompts. Download the best 100 prompts for your company. Yeah, sure. That's great because it's fine because you're going to be able to use these tools. You're going to be able to gain familiarity with this AI technology. But if you want to actually be a player in the AI revolution, I don't think it's enough to download 100 prompts. I think you need to ask yourself these sort of questions. These are the things that you need to think about if you want to succeed. So at AI Academy, we've been thinking about for a few months, maybe even more, maybe for a year or so, how can we help people who need to take those decisions gain the confidence and the knowledge they need to take those decisions. And it took us a long time because we wanted to make sure that we actually knew how to take those decisions. So we gained some experience through my consulting, through researching, through studying, to talking to people. And we're now ready to announce a new program. So this was what I wanted to advertise at the end of this workshop. And I'm gonna give you a few key information. So make sure that you stick in for the next 5 minutes. So the new AI Academy program is called Leading Business Growth with Generative AI. This is the name of our new program. So what you learned today is just the beginning. It's just sort of like the foundation of the program, of what the program is all about. The 3 other things that you're going to learn is how to find a good use case for your company. I see a lot of companies that are struggling with this because AI can do a lot of different things. So finding out the right thing to do is not trivial, but it's going to be key if you want to have success. Then how do you build a solid business case? Meaning not just how do you how do you estimate the value that you can give, but also the cost, the best strategy, as we saw today, how to go about implementation strategy, and last but not least, how do you convince others in your company that this is the right way to go? And last, which is probably actually what most companies think about, how can you address privacy and legal aspects? AI is scary for many, but if you know how it works, you can handle it. Okay, you can make it work. And so we're going to teach you how to handle all these topics. I think this is an amazing program for three kinds of people: business leaders, so mid managers to executives in medium to large organizations; digital professionals, consultants, or people who need to help other companies uh, develop their own strategy; or anybody who works for an innovative company, anybody who works for a company that wants to really kind of push the boundaries of what the company is doing and kind of enter into this new era of software, of AI. So these are the people that I highly recommend this course to. How are you going to learn? So it's a mix of on-demand lessons and live sessions with me. So the first thing that you do is that you get access to a bunch of different on-demand modules that you can watch at your own pace with practical exercises. There are 3 live sessions with me, plus group sessions with other peers and one-to-one coaching, which we're really proud of. It's not just the AI coaching, but it's actual real humans that are that work for AI Academy. They're people who have a lot of skills that can help you out whenever you have questions. And at the end, you're going to be able to build your own business case. So throughout the whole program, you're going to work on your own business case that you can present to your boss or to whoever you want to your future employer if you want to change job, to show how cool you are and how many skills you gain through this program. And I'm going to give you as well a certificate to show people that you actually know this stuff. So this program is going to be on sale because it's the first time that we're running it, but just for the people in the waiting list. So I recommend that you join the waiting list so that you can reserve your seat at the discounted price. If you're part of the waiting list, you're not only going to be able to get the discount, but also you're going to be able to book your seat before everybody else. I suspect this course is going to go pretty well because I think there's a lot of demand and we worked a lot on it. But also, I know that classes are best when they're fairly small, so that we can have a one-to-one relationship. And so we're not going to have a lot of students. And I highly recommend that you subscribe to the waiting list because, yeah, you're going to be able to book a seat before everybody else. Also, is not to forget, we're going to do another private webinar, a little bit on some more applied concepts on March 27th, just for the people in the waiting list. So there's another incentive to join. Okay. And by the way, if you're still hungry for new free AI knowledge, we also have a new webinar that you can scan this QR code to register to put in your calendar. It's going to be next week, and it's going to be about how AI Academy uses AI. We've done another. We already done a webinar on this, but this is going to be updated. So new things that we've done in the past. In the past few months. So once again, you can take a screenshot of this, or look at the QR code with your phone if you want to look for the new join the new webinar next week, or here if you want to subscribe to the waiting list for our new program. Are there any discounts for groups? Absolutely, Francesco. You should reach out either to me or to so basically anybody from our team that's going to help you out. I think the best person for you to reach out to is Helen. Her email address is Helen, HELIN, at ai-academy.com. If you got that email, great. If you did not, just write me a message on LinkedIn. I'm going to help you out. But yeah, we're doing discounts for groups because we find that a lot of companies maybe have more than one person that wants to be part of this new strategy definition in their company. And so you can come into the program and work together on it. You can also just talk to us to book a private session for your company. Obviously, that's going to be more expensive, but it really depends on what your company is trying to do. Just reach out to us, to me or to Helen, and we're going to help you out decide what's the best for you. So that's it, guys. I hope this was interesting for you. I'm gonna stay a few more minutes in case you have questions. Just saw a few comments. Daniele, as you may remember, the convincing part is critical. Absolutely. I had the honor of working a little bit with Daniele. Convincing people is really hard because you may be shocked. I don't know, because like I think if you're here, you're in this webinar, you are one of the people who are excited about AI. Not everybody has understood the value yet. And I think that's one of the things that had the most experience in. How do you convince others that haven't seen yet the value of AI, and you need to help them out? Of course, ciao Hinge. See you in class again. Hinge is one of our students. I love having you in those sessions as well. Danielle is asking 3 sessions, meaning how many hours of lesson and hand-on? That's a really good question. So the program is designed for people who have sort of a busy schedule. So what does that mean? That means that if you are very busy and don't have a lot of time to spend on, you can basically get to the intended learning objectives investing roughly 3 hours per week of your own time. Those 3 hours include 1 hour and a half of live sessions per week, whether that's with me or with the academy coaches, plus sort of an hour and a half of self-study, watching videos or working on the exercises. I think, yeah, that's the minimum, like 2 to 3 hours. Well, if you're very smart, in 2 hours, I think you can handle it as well. But it's thought in a way that if you want to dig deeper, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. But we wanted to design something that was kind of respectful of your own time, because most of you are going to be professionals who are very busy. So we wanted to make sure that even with a limited amount of effort, you can still get a really good output. Obviously, if you want to put more time, I'm not going to be the one stopping you. Actually, I'm going to give you more homework. I think people here in the chat who are part of the have done some AI Academy courses in the past can really talk about this. It's really about how much you want to put into it. Thank you, Lavanya. I'm glad that you like this. So Joella just posted on LinkedIn the link to the waiting list in case you have not scanned the QR code yet. Yeah, this was fun. It was interesting for me to see some of your comments, to see the value here. This is a new lecture that I'm preparing, since once again I am kind of just like, I really care about the programs that we launch, so I wanted to sort of like test those concepts. It sounds like you guys like them, so I'm gonna keep going even deeper as we are finalizing the program. Oh yeah, it's Alessandro. Ciao, Alessandro. Nice to see you here as well. Cool. So I hope you guys got value from this. Again, if you have questions about the new programs or about anything really, just reach out to me or to anybody else from the team. This has been an absolute pleasure for me to spend some time with you on a Friday evening. And I hope I'm gonna see all of you in class. Ciao, everybody. Have a great weekend. I'll see you around.